I'm going to make a video on reloading, basically reloading for beginners or reloading for some of the obsolete cartridges and that. And most people who are pretty savvy collectors or reloaders, probably is nothing here, but a lot of my videos are on firing these old antique guns. A lot of people ask me, hey, where can I get something like that? Where can I buy ammo for that? And a lot of the older guns, more unusual calibers, you can't. You like with the Mauser 7184s, you basically have to reload the ammunition. You can buy loaded black powder ammo, but it's extremely expensive. It's like $80, $90 for 20 rounds. You know, you more or less have to get into reloading if you want to shoot that with any frequency. So basically, let's start off with what you would need to just reload sensibly and or working with these older cartridges. First thing is load data. You should have the proper information. Now I have a collection basically, and this is what would be referred to as published data. These reloading manuals, reloading books cover different cartridges, give you all the cartridge specifications, the type of the bullet, and see it says it'll even give you the type of the bullets used. The only problem is when you get into the more 65 Swedish Mauser, 6.5 Swedish Mausers covered, and I believe like 6.5 Japanese, 7.7 Japanese. You could probably find in a manual, or search around online, get an older manual, one that's out of was published 20-30 years ago, may have some of these older cartridges. But some of them you're just not going to find any data, period. Much like the 43 Mauser for the old guns, Lee does give load data with most of its dive sets. And like this one here for the 8x56, which goes in the M95, there's some load data. Basically a powder, starting charge, maximum velocity, and plus it gives you the for the case length and everything else. It doesn't tell you what type of bullet they're using or anything, so it's a good start, but there's information missing. Now if you go online, and some people will post, but they're not. A lot of people are afraid of getting sued or being held liable for any accidents or anything. And basically people will just give you a listing of a bullet weight, a powder charge, and what type of powder, a maximum amount, and the velocity. That's all they're giving you. They're not giving you much information. And if you're working with an obsolete cartridge that's, has questions or problems, you could run into some problems here. I got some suggestions for that. So first thing we do is you figure out what caliber you're going to reload, what you're going to need component wise. Can you get brass? Can you get the proper bullets? Slugging your bore. I have a video on that. If it's an unusual gun like the M95s, the actual bore size is supposed to be 330 thousandths, but I have like 5 different rifles and they slug anywhere. Some of them slug, 2 of them slug at 330 thousandths. There's a bunch of them that slug at 332 thousandths, and I have one that slugged up like 336 thousandths, the groove diameter. So you have a lot of variables with these older 100-year-old guns. So figure out what components you're going to use and what type of load you're going to use, and get the proper load data. Now the one thing you're going to need, the absolute things you're going to need, is a reloading press. This is what they call an O-frame press. And an O-frame it's a solid press, the cartridges go up into the dies like this. You want to stay with an O-frame press to begin with. because something, this little hand loader here, this is set up for something else, but the die would go here, and this is your ram. This is what you call a C-frame press, and they have turret presses that basically have a turret that can index, and it would be an open C-frame. I don't recommend that. Maybe if you're loading just pistol shells or something, because when you get into a good sized rifle like 30-06 and that, you get flexing and it doesn't quite size properly, and you have problems. Go with an O-frame. Now this is an old Bonanza. I don't even know if they make these anymore. I got this when a gun shop went out of business. RCBS sells some good presses. Lyman sells good presses. Lee. Now another thing, how much money do you have to spend? Say you buy a rifle for $150. You don't want to spend $350 in equipment to reload. So if you're looking to just start, or if you're looking to save money, Lee products are good. They're priced good and they work. Lee has 2 presses, and I'd recommend, let me see, I wrote some down. Lee has the one press, which is like, it's an O-frame press with a quick release on there. That one I think is around $50, and then they have the Lee Classic, which is about $75 press, and that press you could set up and use for the 50 caliber machine gun. And what the difference is, the standard dies are 7/8 14 thread. Most of them are standard like that. If you go with a 50 caliber machine gun, and the only thing in the old things, and Lee makes the dies for them, is the 577 Henry Martini and the cartridge for the Snyder gun. Lee makes a set of dies which have the same thread diameter, the 1.25" by 12, which is same as the 50 caliber machine gun. And their classic press has a bushing that you can put those larger dies in, and the bushing, you can pull the bushing out. It'll be the 1.25" by 12, and you can put a bushing in and use standard dies, the 7/8 14. Which, if I got an old Henry Martini gun, I'd more or less be forced to have to go out and buy a press, because the threads, the dies won't fit in this. So if you don't have a press, that Lee Classic with the bushing in there is probably a good start, or a good choice to buy, because in that way it gives you flexibility, and for $30, $40 more, even if you never use it, you still have the opportunity, or if you want to resell it. Okay, when you have a press, next thing you're going to need is dies. Now dies, you can go around Lee, a good set of Lee dies, which here's a set here, where they come with a shell holder, a powder measure, paper with load data, and there's a die that D-primes in sizes, full length resizing, and a die that seats the bullet. So you have a 2 die set. They go for around $30, and they cover some obsolete cartridges, and so most of your normal, standard cartridges, 30-06, 308, whatever, 30-30. So you can start with Lee. Now some, they don't make all of them. Some that you're going to have to go, and you're going to go into the other, like RCBS or Lyman. RCBS makes the 11mm for the French Gras. They're like $180 a set. Another company that's very good, that makes just about anything and will make custom, is CH4D. And I have a few of their die sets. This is for the 8x56. And they can make you dies for anything. You can send them a chamber casting and they'll make you a set of dies. Probably cost more. They go for about $80 a set, somewhere in there. Buffalo Arms stocks this company. You can contact them directly. I bought some directly from this company. The price difference isn't that much. And you can have these customized and changed if you need to for whatever you're doing. And they're very decent people to work with. Very good set of dies. The quality on them is fine as far as I'm concerned. Some people like RCBS or Lyman, whatever, and when you get a press, you can also get a kit. It will have a powder measure, all the other stuff. So you're going to need a press, you're going to need a set of good dies. Next thing is, this thing probably had a priming mechanism on it, it didn't come with it. Next thing, most presses have some sort of an automatic priming system on there. You can use that with the press, or like I have this setup. This setup is here to prime. This is a little hand press, got an adapter. Put the primer in the thing, and you can prime right here. This is just, I picked up some old equipment and I use it for this. You can use the priming as a separate operation or whatever. You know, if you have room, say you want to size all your stuff and then have the little priming station here. Here's another priming. This is an RCBS. You know, you put the little large or small in there or whatever. Or you put your shell holder on in there. And then there's a tube that goes on here, and this is kind of like an automatic feeding. I had this for years. I lost the tube. This is a little bit expensive. I think it's over $100 for that. But if you want to have priming as a separate operation, most presses have an automatic primer set up. The next thing is, when you're sizing your brass after you fire it, you're going to have to lubricate it. In the old way, you use this thick, kind of oily case lube and a pad. I had the pad somewhere. It's just a cloth pad. You put this on there and kind of get it to soak in, and then you roll the cases on there. And it's kind of an art to do this. The pad, I lost it, probably chucked it out. What I use is an aerosol case lube, one shot, Hornady one shot. I used this when it came out new a few years ago, and I've had good luck with it, and this is what I use. It's less messier than the case pads, and it works pretty good. I like it. And I've seen some people just take a little bit of this and rub it on the case and run it up the die. You can do that, whatever you want. So, you're going to need dies, you're going to need a good press, priming system. The next thing you're going to need, and like I said, usually they sell them all in the kit, you're going to need a good scale. I got the Lyman balance beam scale, and I've had this for years. I have a couple of them. And you're going to need some sort of scale. You always have to check your powder charges. And if you find these used, or buy any of these components used, like say your scale, you can get a little kit. I got this at Midway or something. And there's little weights in there, 10 grains, 20 grains, 1 grain. You can put the weights in, check your scale, make sure your scale's accurate, that nothing's damaged, and that. But you're going to have, it's a must to have a scale. Then the next thing is, and with the scale, you also could get a powder trickler. And what that does is, say you throw a charge, what I do is I always throw a light charge and take the trickler, and it drops a few grains of powder in to bring it right up, so I got the same charge all the time. Next is a powder measure. This is the Lyman powder measure. Basically, you just set the barrel here. This slides in and out. And you fill this with powder, and you just turn it. And then it'll dispense the powder down here. This is totally adjustable. There's a fine adjustment on this. You know. I've used this for years. It's okay. It's kind of a pain to set up and get to where it's just right. But you can find these used. or get a new one, or some sort of powder measure. Now another thing you can use, especially with black powder, is you don't want to put black powder in a powder measure with steel. They do make special ones with all brass components, but black powder you're usually going to be measuring, and I don't know where I got this. I had this for years, and sat on a shelf for 20 years, and until I started loading black powder cartridges I never used it. And basically it's a Lee set of plastic scoops, and this is what I use to get my measurements for black powder. Here's a 43 Mauser, and it comes with a little instruction thing, and it gives you the types of powder up here in a little window, and it even goes to your Pyrex is in there, and then black powder, your different Fs, 1F, 2F, 1. Then you get the corresponding scoop, and it gives you an idea how many grains of powder you're throwing. Now when you use this, always double check it on the scale. Don't just scoop the stuff and take it for granted that that chart says, because there's a lot of the powder, humidity, density, that always double check. If you're using this, double check it with a scale, because you don't want to take any chances and hurt yourself or anyone else. Another thing, okay, powder measure, scale, trickler, case trimmer. There are different types of ways of trimming a case. This is the Lyman Universal. You take a deprimed empty case, slide it into this collet. There's a ball bearing in there that locks in the empty primer pocket. It closes it. You set this here for your length, and there's a pilot, and you just turn it and it trims the case. Lee makes some other way of trimming cases. There are dies that you run the case up, you can file trim. This I had because it came, I bought a reloading kit with all these components. But this is one way to trim cases. You're going to have to trim after about, depending on the charge, 3 to 5 shots. The case is going to stretch out a little, and it's going to go past that maximum. See right here, maximum trim length would be 2 inches 370 thousandths. Well, it'll say it's 2 inches 380 thousandths. You got to trim 10 thousandths off somehow. This is one way of doing it, and you're going to have something to trim your cases. And powder funnel. You're always going to need one of these. Take your powder out of there or whatever. And a reloading block. Reloading blocks, you can get them different sizes, whatever. It holds your cases, so you size them all. Turn them upside down so you can tell. Prime them, set them up, fill them with powder, run to the die. Reloading blocks come in handy. Not necessary, but when you're doing volume. And that's about it for the basics. Some calibers you're going to have to cast bullets. Bullets can be a problem, so you have to get into casting. There's lots of videos on casting. But this is the basic equipment you probably need to reload. I may have forgot something, but basically you're going to kind of need all these different items to reload for a lot of the older, more unusual cartridges that aren't standard. You know, and it will save you some money doing it yourself, other than buying it. You can buy most ammunition and components somewhere, but it can get quite expensive.